All right, welcome back to another segment of the Penn State Blitz here on Penn Live. Greg, it's Penn State Pitt week, huge week, huge. We got a lot to get to. We're going to call it 4 downs and a touchdown. See what's on your mind. Maybe we'll get some questions from the audience a little bit later. We'll have to see. First down, Greg. You know, Penn State Pitt last year was a great game, one of the best games of the year, 42-39. This year's game, I'm not so sure. Penn State opened as a 20-point favorite. Do you see this game, as we talk about it now, as another shootout in the making?
Yeah, I do. I think that Penn State's defensively, if Akron would have had a little bit better quarterback play, I think you would have saw them score a little bit on Saturday. Obviously, Penn State earned the shutout. There were a couple plays the secondary could have been beat deep, Bob. Looking at Pitt's offense, they do obviously have a little bit of a question mark at quarterback in some other spots, but shootout looks likely to me.
Yeah, both teams obviously 1-0, 52-0. Penn State just hammered Akron. It really wasn't a game. Pitt really was pushed to the limit at home by Youngstown State. They won in overtime, blew a 21-point lead before rallying. I don't know what it says about this Pitt team. We're going to find out. Let's get to second down. You know, there was a time when Penn State and Pittsburgh, just a huge rivalry. They had some great games, especially mid to late 70s and the early 80s. Really, really great games. The series got discontinued, and now, depending on who you talk to, what side of the fence you're on, it's either a rivalry or it's not a rivalry. James Franklin at his press conference today kind of went out of his way to let people know how he feels about this series, and he said, you know, this week it really is a big game. It's a Super Bowl. It is a rivalry, but there's a catch.
Yeah, the catch, of course, is that it's this week's game. So Akron was the Super Bowl last year. They'll have multiple Super Bowls throughout the season as they get to each and every game. So I think that what you're looking at here is James Franklin approaching it like he always does. He doesn't really go out of his way to make one game bigger than another one. You're not going to see him shut off access to players and coaches as Pat Narduzzi has. Pat Narduzzi says that that's just the way he wants to do things. This is James Franklin's way of doing things. You do get the impression at times that both programs certainly, handle things a little bit differently, and I think that, each has their prerogative for the way they do things. But yeah, Penn State's not really going out of its way to say anything more about Pitt and about this series and game than it has to.
I don't know about you, but I'm super psyched next week to hear him say that Georgia State is the Super Bowl and the only game that matters, because I don't even that
trophy game.
Yeah, that game is just going to be yikes, and it's a 7:30 kick, so that's great.
Thank you, Big Ten Network.
Third down, Ryan Buchholz, third-year defensive end for Penn State, got a little extended run in the Akron game when Sharif Miller left early in the game with an injury. I thought he was very disruptive, Greg. He had a tackle. He had a tackle for loss. He had a sack. Forced a fumble. Here's my question, though. Is he the most overlooked player on the Penn State team right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think that most just assume Sharif Miller and Torrance Brown would slide into the defensive end spots, and that would be that. Obviously, all offseason, depth at defensive line and the rotation that Sean Spencer uses has been talked about at length. Yeah. But Buchholz was a name that never came up, and I think the reason for that, Bob, is that they make him a defensive end and a defensive tackle based on what they need. So he doesn't necessarily start or play a bunch of time at one position. He's used wherever. It's invaluable for Penn State. He's going to make noises here. There's no question about it. That was just a come-out party for Ryan Buchholz. There's more to come where that came from on Saturday.
I just feel like the more he plays, the harder it's going to be to get him off the field. He split some time with Evan Schwan last year. He didn't have great numbers, but it remains to be seen whether Sharif's going to play. And if this guy gets on the field for 40 or 50 snaps and has a huge game, they might have a new starting defensive end. Right. So we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Yep.
Okay, fourth down. I think a lot of fans were wondering about this. Penn State had the game in hand against Akron at halftime, Greg. It was 35-0, and you could just tell that, the only question was how big would the margin would be. So to start the second half, who's back fielding the kickoff? And he actually got hit pretty good. It was Saquon Barkley. And James was asked about that. I'm not so sure that he should have been in the game, but James had a pretty interesting answer.
I thought it was a fair answer. He said that Saquon Barkley was going to take Penn State's first kickoff, whenever that was, whether it was early, whether it was late, and they didn't get a chance to field a kickoff until the second half. Look, I agree with the fact that 35-0, your junior All-American running back, probably shouldn't be back there doing that, but this is kind of like James Franklin talks about leaving the starters in. He's not going to ever back away from what he wants to do. They have a plan, and they're going to stick to it. But I think, let me ask you this, Bob. If Penn State being up 40 wasn't enough to get the starters out against Akron, how many points will they need to score and be up by to get them out against Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I just know that if he ever gets hurt on a kickoff in a situation like that, I mean,
How do you explain
there'll be a revolt.
Yeah.
There will be a fan base revolt. So he could stick to his guns and say, well, that was the plan, and that's what we're going to do. But it's all fun and games until that guy gets hurt.
Right.
So I just think that moving forward, maybe I think Saquon Barkley, in the Rose Bowl, use him when you need a play, but don't trot him out there against Akron.
No, I think that if you do it when you need a play, that's fine. I'm pretty sure the experience that he gained by getting drilled at the start of the second half against Akron's not going to change whether or not he can return a kickoff in a game when it actually matters. So tough call. We now know why James Franklin did it, and I guess that's that.
Okay, that's 4 downs. Now we got the touchdown segment.
Yep.
James Franklin kind of went out of his way at the press conference to mention the name of Pittsburgh's Quadri Henderson. And he is a guy that has James's full attention.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, he's good. I mean, you remember last year, if you go back and watch what he did when he was in the game on offense and then also on special teams, he only needs a little bit of room to work with. I mean, you thought DeAndre Tompkins only needed a little bit of room for that touchdown return. Quadri Henderson doesn't need much either. He's a really, really good player, and I think that, I don't know, if you said his return yards at over under 100, I'd be probably tempted to take the over. I think that Penn State looked good on special teams, but this is a special player, and it'll be a big challenge.
Yeah, he hurt them a lot on a jet sweep. I'm a little curious to see if the jet sweep comes back. Penn State could not handle it. Pitt ran for over 300 yards in last year's game, the 42-39 win. And then late in the game, Henderson had the 84-yard kickoff return that I believe set up the winning points in the game. So now we know why James Franklin has got to be concerned about that guy. That's about it, I think, for this edition of the Blitz. But I just want to remind everyone that there's a Penn State on Penn Live YouTube channel that's Penn State Sports all the time. You're going to want to subscribe to this. So you guys take care, and we'll see you next week.